Cameron! Cameron, wake up!
In 1986, a high school kid faked sick, borrowed a Ferrari, and had the perfect day in Chicago. The film became a love letter to youth, friendship, and living in the moment. It made Matthew Broderick a star and gave us one of the most quotable comedies of the decade. But behind John Hughes's seemingly effortless masterpiece was a production filled with improvisation, last-minute changes, and happy accidents. These are 15 shocking behind-the-scenes secrets from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Number 15. John Hughes wrote the script in less than a week. John Hughes was incredibly prolific in the mid-1980s, but even by his standards, Ferris Bueller's Day Off came together fast. He wrote the entire screenplay in less than a week, working at his usual breakneck pace. Hughes had the character of Ferris in his mind for years. He'd been thinking about a charismatic kid who could talk his way out of anything, and who understood that life moves pretty fast. The script poured out of him because he'd been mentally developing it for so long. The speed of the writing shows in the film's energy and spontaneity. There's a looseness to the story that feels natural rather than overworked. Hughes wasn't laboring over every detail. He was capturing a feeling, a perfect day that exists outside of normal rules and consequences. Hughes wrote the role specifically for Matthew Broderick, who he'd worked with on a previous project. He knew Broderick's charm and timing, and he crafted Ferris to showcase those qualities. The character's ability to break the fourth wall and speak directly to the audience was built around Broderick's natural likability.
You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Number 14. The Ferrari was a replica.
Less than 100 were made.
The 1961 Ferrari 250 GT California, that plays such a crucial role in the film, wasn't real. It was a replica built on a Ford chassis. Real Ferrari 250 GT Californias were extremely rare and valuable even in 1986, and there was no way the production could afford to use one, let alone destroy one. 3 replicas were built for the film by a company called Modena Design. They looked convincing on camera, especially in motion. The average viewer couldn't tell the difference, which was all that mattered for the movie. The scene where the Ferrari crashes through the glass and plummets into the ravine used one of the replicas. It was actually pushed out of the garage rather than driven, and the crash was filmed with multiple cameras to make sure they captured it in one take. You don't get a second chance when you're destroying a car, even a replica. After the film's release, the destruction of the Ferrari became controversial among car enthusiasts, even though it wasn't real. The scene represented the ultimate nightmare for Cameron's father, and for anyone who loves cars. The visceral reaction people had to seeing the car destroyed proved how effectively the film made you care about it. Years later, a real 1961 Ferrari 250 GT California sold at auction for over $10 million. The replicas used in the film, by contrast, have been sold for hundreds of thousands, valuable only because of their connection to the movie. Number 13. Matthew Broderick was only 23, playing a high school senior.
I asked for a car, I got a computer. How's that for being born under a bad sign?
Matthew Broderick was 23 years old during filming, several years past high school age. But he had a youthful appearance and energy that made him believable as a teenager. John Hughes knew Broderick could pull it off. Broderick brought a lightness and charm to Ferris that made the character irresistible. He never played Ferris as smug or mean-spirited, even though the character is manipulative and gets away with things that would get most people in serious trouble. Broderick found the warmth in Ferris, the genuine affection he has for his friends, and the joy he takes in breaking the rules. The direct-to-camera addresses were crucial to making Ferris likable. By letting the audience in on his schemes, Ferris became a co-conspirator, rather than just someone to watch. Broderick's delivery of those moments was conversational and friendly, like he was talking to a friend rather than performing for a camera. Broderick improvised some of his dialogue, particularly the asides to the camera. Hughes encouraged improvisation from his actors, trusting them to find moments that felt natural. The relationship between Hughes and Broderick was collaborative, with both men bringing ideas to the character.
It's on European socialism. I mean, really, what's the point?
Number 12. Alan Ruck was 29 playing a high school student.
When Cameron was in Egypt's land.
If Broderick was older than a typical high school senior, Alan Ruck was even more so. Ruck was 29 when he played Cameron Fry, making him almost a decade older than his character. But like Broderick, he had the right energy and presence to make it work. Ruck brought depth to Cameron that could have been missing from the role. Cameron is anxious, depressed, and struggling with his relationship with his father. Ruck played those layers without making Cameron pathetic or purely comedic. He's the emotional center of the film, the character who actually grows and changes. The scenes between Ferris and Cameron work because Ruck and Broderick had genuine chemistry. They felt like real friends who'd known each other for years. The conversation in the restaurant where Cameron talks about his family situation has real weight because Ruck commits to the emotional truth of the moment. Cameron's arc is the real story of the film. Ferris doesn't change. He's the same at the end as at the beginning. But Cameron confronts his fear and takes responsibility for his own life. The moment where he lets the car fall, accepting the consequences, is Cameron's liberation.
What'd I do?
You killed the car.
Number 11. Jennifer Grey and Matthew Broderick were dating in real life. Jennifer Grey, who played Ferris's sister Jeannie, was actually dating Matthew Broderick during the production. Their real-life relationship added an interesting dynamic to the film, though their characters barely interact on screen. Grey and Broderick had met on the set of an earlier film and started dating. By the time Ferris Bueller was filming, they were in a serious relationship. They kept things professional on set, but everyone knew they were together. Grey's character is consumed with jealousy over Ferris getting away with everything, while she follows the rules and gets nothing for it. The resentment Jeannie feels toward her brother drives much of her storyline. Grey played that frustration perfectly, making Jeannie more than just a one-note antagonist. The tragedy is that just a year after Ferris Bueller's release, Grey and Broderick were involved in a serious car accident in Ireland. Broderick was driving, and the accident killed 2 people in another vehicle. Both actors were injured, and the emotional trauma from the incident affected them deeply. The accident cast a shadow over what should have been a triumphant time in both their careers. Number 10. The parade scene was filmed during an actual Chicago parade. The parade sequence where Ferris lip-syncs to Twist and Shout wasn't staged entirely for the film. It was filmed during an actual parade in Chicago, with real spectators who had no idea a movie was being made. The production got permission to have a float in the Von Steuben Day Parade, an actual annual event celebrating German-American heritage. They built the float and inserted it into the real parade route. Most of the crowd scenes you see are genuine parade-goers reacting to what they thought was just part of the festivities. Broderick lip-synced to the Beatles recording, and the crowd's enthusiastic response was real. They were having fun with what they thought was a parade performance, not realizing they were being filmed for a movie. The energy and joy in that sequence is authentic. The dancing construction workers and other background elements were planned, but the general crowd reaction was spontaneous. John Hughes loved capturing real moments, and the parade scene is one of the best examples of his ability to blend staged elements with genuine documentary footage. The scene has become one of the most iconic in the film. Ferris leading the parade, dancing and singing, embodies everything the character represents: joy, confidence, and the ability to turn any situation into a celebration. Number 9. The economics teacher's boring lecture was mostly improvised.
In 1930, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives
Ben Stein plays the monotone economics teacher whose dry lecture about the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act has become legendary. The scene is painful to watch because it perfectly captures the worst kind of classroom experience, where the teacher drones on while students fight to stay awake. Stein, who has a background in economics and law, largely improvised his lecture. John Hughes told him to talk about economics in the most boring way possible. Stein delivered, using his naturally monotone voice to create a performance that's funny precisely because it's so deadening. The students' reactions were real. They were genuinely bored sitting through Stein's lecture. Hughes filmed the scene with Stein talking for much longer than what appears in the film, and the actors' glazed expressions and desperate attempts to stay engaged are authentic. The scene works on multiple levels. It's funny, but it also makes a point about the disconnect between education and engagement. Ferris is off having authentic experiences, while his classmates are trapped listening to information delivered in the most lifeless way imaginable. Stein became so associated with this role that people still reference it when they see him, even though he's had a long career as an economist, lawyer, and media personality. The monotone teacher became his signature.
Something DOO economics. Voodoo economics.
Number 8. Charlie Sheen's scene was filmed in one day.
You're wearing too much eye makeup.
Charlie Sheen appears briefly as a juvenile delinquent at the police station who flirts with Jeannie. His scene was filmed in a single day, and his presence adds a jolt of energy to the film's final act. Sheen was already making a name for himself in Hollywood, having appeared in Platoon and other films. John Hughes wanted someone with an edge for the role, someone who could make an impression in a short amount of time. Sheen delivered. The story goes that Sheen stayed awake for 48 hours before filming to achieve the wired, exhausted look his character needed. Whether that's true or Hollywood legend is unclear, but Sheen certainly looks appropriately ragged in the scene. The chemistry between Sheen and Jennifer Grey was immediate. Their conversation at the police station crackles with energy, and the kiss they share shocked audiences. The scene provides Jeannie with a moment of awakening, where she realizes how much energy she's been wasting on her resentment toward Ferris. Sheen's character serves a specific purpose in the story. He's the catalyst for Jeannie's change of heart. After talking to him, she decides to stop trying to get Ferris in trouble, and instead helps him get away with his scheme.
Well, it's Jean, but a lot of guys call me Shauna.
Number 7. The museum scenes were filmed at the Art Institute of Chicago. The sequence at the Art Institute of Chicago is one of the most beautiful and contemplative in the film. Cameron stares at Georges Seurat's painting, A Sunday Afternoon on the Island of La Grande Jatte, and the camera slowly pushes in until we're looking at the individual dots that make up the pointillist composition. The Art Institute gave the production permission to film in the museum, and Hughes took advantage of the opportunity to create something more artistic and thoughtful than typical teen comedy fare. The museum sequence slows the film down and gives the characters space to think. Cameron's connection to the Seurat painting is about his sense of being disconnected and falling apart. As the camera pushes closer, the painting dissolves into meaningless dots, just like Cameron feels his life is dissolving into chaos. It's a visual metaphor that works without being heavy-handed. The choice of that specific painting was deliberate. Seurat's technique of using tiny dots to create a cohesive image from a distance parallels Cameron's experience of his life. Up close, nothing makes sense. Only from a distance does it seem to have order and meaning. Hughes used the museum to give his young characters a moment of reflection that you rarely saw in teen comedies. They're surrounded by beauty and history, taking a break from their adventure to just experience art. It's a reminder that the best days aren't just about action and excitement, but also about quiet moments of connection. Number 6. Jeffrey Jones played Rooney without knowing he'd become so iconic. Jeffrey Jones played Principal Ed Rooney, the administrator obsessed with catching Ferris in his lie. Jones approached the role as a straightforward antagonist, a guy doing his job, not realizing he was creating one of the most memorable comedy villains of the 1980s. Rooney is determined to prove Ferris is faking, and he goes to increasingly ridiculous lengths to catch him. His pursuit becomes manic and self-destructive, costing him his dignity and eventually landing him in physical danger. Jones played every humiliation completely straight, which made it funnier. The scenes where Rooney suffers various indignities, getting kicked by a dog, stuck in the mud, and beaten up by Ferris's sister, work because Jones commits fully to the character's determination. He never winks at the camera or plays it for laughs. He plays Rooney as a man on a mission, which makes his failures more satisfying. Jones had a successful character actor career before Ferris Bueller, but this role became his most recognized. For years afterward, people would see him and immediately think of Rooney. The character eclipsed everything else he did. The film doesn't judge Rooney too harshly. He's doing his job trying to enforce school rules. The film just happens to be on Ferris's side, rooting for the kid to get away with it. In another movie, Rooney would be the hero trying to stop a manipulative troublemaker.
How would you feel about another year of high school?
Number 5. The film was shot in only 30 days. Given how polished and complete Ferris Bueller's Day Off feels, it's remarkable that the entire production was shot in just 30 days. John Hughes ran a tight ship, and the quick shooting schedule forced everyone to work efficiently. Hughes had a clear vision for every scene before filming began. He storyboarded extensively and knew exactly what he needed. This preparation meant less time wasted on set trying to figure things out. The cast and crew came in ready to work, and they moved quickly from setup to setup. The tight schedule also contributed to the film's energy. There wasn't time for scenes to become stale through endless takes. Hughes captured performances while they were fresh and spontaneous. The actors stayed in the moment because they had to keep moving forward. Filming in Chicago presented logistical challenges, but it also provided authentic locations that gave the film its distinctive look. The city became a character in the movie, and shooting on location in real places added to the sense of a genuine day of adventure. The 30-day shoot was physically demanding for everyone involved, but it resulted in a film that feels effortless and light. The hard work doesn't show on screen, which is exactly what Hughes wanted. Number 4. Mia Sara was cast. Just days before filming began.
Hi, Cameron. You comfortable?
Hi, Sloan. No.
Mia Sara, who played Sloane Peterson, Ferris's girlfriend, was cast very close to the start of production. The role had been difficult to fill, and Sarah came in at almost the last minute. Sarah was only 18 during filming, younger than both Broderick and Ruck. She brought a maturity and poise to Sloane that made the character more than just Ferris's accessory. Sloane is confident and self-assured, someone who's with Ferris because she wants to be, not because she's dazzled by him. The character of Sloane is interesting because she's presented as nearly perfect. She's beautiful, cool, supportive, and game for anything. She never complains or doubts Ferris's plans. In lesser hands, she could have been one-dimensional, but Sarah gave her warmth and intelligence. The relationship between Ferris and Sloane is shown as genuinely affectionate. They touch and kiss naturally, and they seem to enjoy each other's company. For a film largely about male friendship, it treats the romantic relationship with respect and care. Sarah's relative inexperience worked in her favor. She wasn't carrying baggage from other roles, and audiences could accept her as Sloane without thinking about other characters she'd played. She inhabited the role completely.
You knew what you were doing when you woke up this morning, didn't you?
Me?
Number 3. The end credits scene. Started a trend.
It's over. Go home.
After the credits finish rolling, Ferris appears one more time to tell the audience to go home. It's a brief moment, but it became influential, encouraging other films to include post-credit scenes. John Hughes included the scene as a final joke and as a way to reward people who sat through the credits. It's consistent with Ferris's character to have the last word and to break the fourth wall one more time. The scene acknowledges the audience directly, thanking them for watching. The post-credit scene wasn't common in 1986. Most audiences didn't sit through credits, and most films didn't include anything after them. Ferris Bueller helped popularize the idea that sticking around might reward you with something extra. Today, post-credit scenes are standard, especially in franchise films. Marvel movies have made them expected parts of the viewing experience. But in 1986, it was novel and surprising to have Ferris pop back up after the film seemed to be over. The scene is also practical. It prevented people from trying to sneak into another movie after seeing Ferris Bueller. Theater staff could check that everyone had left once they saw Ferris tell the audience to go home.
Go home.
Number 2. John Hughes wanted the film to feel timeless. John Hughes deliberately avoided dating the film with too many specific cultural references. He wanted Ferris Bueller's Day Off to feel like it could happen anytime, not just in 1986. The clothes are stylish, but not aggressively trendy. The music includes classic rock alongside contemporary songs. The technology shown is minimal, mostly just phones and a basic computer that Ferris uses to change his absence count. Hughes knew that too many period-specific details would make the film feel dated quickly. This approach worked. Ferris Bueller doesn't feel as trapped in the 1980s as some other films from that era. The themes are universal, the characters are timeless types, and the story could be transplanted to almost any decade with minimal changes. The film's philosophy about seizing the day and making the most of life never goes out of style. Every generation discovers Ferris Bueller and finds something to relate to. The specific details of how Ferris fakes being sick might change with technology, but the desire to escape obligation and have a perfect day remains constant. Hughes succeeded in creating something that transcended its moment. The film is clearly from the 1980s, but it doesn't feel stuck there. It has a timeless quality that's kept it relevant and beloved for decades.
I was serious when I said I would marry her. I would.
Number 1. The film almost had a much darker ending.
Get well.
In early drafts of the script, John Hughes toyed with a much bleaker ending where Ferris was revealed to be a figment of Cameron's imagination, a fantasy persona Cameron created to cope with his difficult life. This would have turned the light comedy into something psychological and devastating. Hughes wisely abandoned this idea. The film works as a celebration of youth and friendship, and revealing it was all in Cameron's head would have betrayed everything that came before. The film concludes with Ferris making it home just in time, everyone learning small lessons, but nothing too heavy. It's a fantasy, but an optimistic one that leaves you feeling good.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off remains a perfect encapsulation of what it feels like to be young and want to break free, even just for one day. It's about friendship, about living in the moment, and about recognizing that sometimes the best thing you can do is stop worrying and just experience life. John Hughes created something that continues to resonate because he understood that those feelings never go away, no matter how old you get. If you enjoyed these behind-the-scenes secrets from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into classic films. What's your favorite moment from Ferris Bueller? Let me know in the comments.